Hello, I'm Robert Christensen, and this is Motive for Life. This week, I'm super happy to have Fabienne Sandoval, a SelfWorth life coach. She's practicing out of Spain, and this was such a fun interview. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Talk to you at the end. Bye. Hey, welcome everybody to Motive for Life podcast. I'm Robert Christensen. I'm so happy today that we have Fabienne Sandoval, who is an award-winning author and life coach. Her first book, 28, The Age of Power, was awarded Best Self-Published Spiritual Book of the year 2019 in the Soul and Spirit Book Awards, which I found just amazing. She specializes in elevating self-worth, which, if as you already know on the podcast, that's pretty much where the whole cycle of where I'm about. And she's the first person ever that I've run into that is a self-worth life coach and focusing specifically on the issues of worthiness and stuff. Welcome to the show, Fabienne.
Oh, hey, Robert. Thank you so much for having me. It's so exciting to be here.
It really is for me as well. And so I want to say, first off, thank you for hanging out with us. It's early in the morning here in Southern California, and it is 6 o'clock in Spain?
Nearly 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. Okay. All right. Well, what got you to Spain? I mean, you're obviously from the islands up north. How did you get down to Spain?
Yeah, so I'm originally from the UK, from London, and actually in my book, so you gave me such a nice introduction, thank you for that. My book, 28, The Age of Power, actually talks about what happened when I went through my Saturn's return, what happened when I went through my own awakening to my own power. And one of the things that I did during that year kind of just transformation was coming to this island, Ibiza in Spain. And it just took me. It took my soul, it took my heart, it took everything. And
wow.
It asked me to come here. It just kept saying, please come back, please come back. Oh. And so it took me a few years to officially get here full time. But I've now made the move and I'm just so happy about it. I love being here. It's just, yeah, it's everything I wanted. The island of Ibiza is actually, well, it's a really interesting one, but it's actually all of the grounds that it's set on are crystals. So if you can imagine, if you...
Wait, really? So you are literally sitting on a giant crystal. That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, and it definitely brings some really interesting things into life for you when you're here. You really don't know what the day is going to bring you. So you literally could wake up and you can have all your intents about how you're going to own the day, how you're going to run the day, what kind of routine you're going to do. The island decides for you how your life is going to go. And so a lot of people are either sucked in by the energy and the island is like, yes, stay with me. And a lot of people get spat out. So you never really know what way it's going to go, right? It's a really interesting place to be.
That is so interesting. It would explain why the start of our technical problems that we were having trying to get going, where you were actually on the Zoom call and I could not see you. And I think so there's a broader force in play here. So tell me, why self-worth?
Oof, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
For me, the journey actually started, it wasn't about self-worth in the beginning.
Right.
What had happened, I had been on my own journey. I was fascinated with self-development. I was fascinated with doing the work. And then in my own journey, I then became a coach and was helping others. When I first started out, I was really focused on health. I was focused on power. I was focused on purpose. These were kind of my main areas, and ultimately just elevating your life in all possible ways. But after a while that I was working with my clients, I noticed that every single one of them had the exact same thing in common. And it didn't come down to how healthy they were or, how much purpose they had or anything like that. It was about how worthy they felt and how they felt they deserved the things that they were going after in their life or the things that they already had in their life. So if a client was looking for love, the question wasn't actually, how do I find love? The question is, do I believe I'm worthy of love? Do I believe I'm worthy of being loving? So true.
So true. And so how did that evolve into you shifting and pivoting your practice?
Yeah. So actually, funnily enough, not that much changed because essentially I was already talking about all of these things. But I then started to realize that really was my niche. I think for anyone that has, had their own coaching practice or has been in that world, that the more that you learn, in your own journey about others, potentially you might shift a little bit what it is that you do. And so for me, I really just realized that I'd always been focusing on self-worth. I just wasn't shouting it and I just wasn't telling people about it. And so the moment that I shifted into, I am a self-worth coach, that is what I do, everybody just got it. They were just like, yes, that is me. I struggle with self-worth. And everybody just immediately knew what that meant for them. And yeah, it stuck. So there wasn't too many shifts. I was already doing it. I just wasn't branded in that way.
And when you had mentioned a very important concept here, when you were able to articulate worthiness and being able to say, it's not a matter of do I feel good about myself? It's somewhere along the line, I got imprinted or was, trained to believe that this is where I need to stay with how I acquire maybe wealth or how I think about relationships or how I look in public and what I wear, just clothing. I remember when my wife and I, she says, I'm going to take you clothes shopping. Well, we've been married 30 years, right? So I used to wear, the same stuff, it's a classic guy outfit, right? And so we decided to go shopping and I felt uncomfortable putting on nice clothes that looked nicely. And so I discovered in me, I don't know where it came from, but if I looked, like I had status or something like that, I dressed for status. Let's just say that I didn't feel confident stepping into that because that confidence wasn't backed by worthiness. And so that's how I started seeing that in my own life many years ago and stuff. So, when you and I were discussing this topic, we really kind of dove into where you were really focused in on women initially, correct? Is that where you were starting with? Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, sure. So initially, I really felt focused and very connected to women because if I am one, and
right.
Also I come from a family of a lot of girls, right? So in my immediate family, I have my mom and my two sisters, and we're all very, very close. So I see their different personalities, their different actions, their different habits, right? I've been around that since being born. And then also in my extended family, there's a lot of girls there as well. So I was used to more that feminine energy, more being around women, and could really pinpoint that. Also, naturally, that was what was coming to me. Women were coming to me.
They were just coming to you naturally. There's just there was a bond there. There's a connection there. They like what you're saying. You didn't have to pull past some of the outer stuff to get right to the issues.
No.
Yeah.
And I think, it's interesting, but I think that we attract where we are.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
At the time, I was very comfortable with being around females. I was very comfortable with helping females. I was very comfortable in that energy. To be around the male energy was not as comfortable for me. That was a little bit uncomfortable due to some of the things that I had gone through, my abandonment wounds, my father leaving when I was 14. So there were some things that I was still working on resolving. And I think it's really interesting because I personally think as a coach, the more that I do the work on myself, which is a continuous journey, I think it never ends, right? The more that I do that work on myself, the more that I see my practice actually expand without me doing anything. So there started to become a point where I had done a lot of deep work on how I felt about men, what was happening for me with that side of things, what was coming up there. And I did so much work on that front. And then all of a sudden, just this rush of male energy. And I just had one after the other. So could you work with me? I know you only work with women, but would you work with me? And hi, I've just listened to this and you can help me. So could you work with me? I know you only work with women. And I suddenly, in that moment, I realized, okay, some serious healing has taken place now because I am not only just attracting that female energy, but I've opened the door to say, it's safe, guys, come here.
Right.
I'm ready to work with you as well. I've done my healing and I can actually now support you as well. And so, yeah, that was a really beautiful moment. And I think we talked about this very briefly before, but I think it's worth mentioning that I really started to notice the difference between working with men versus working with women, and
Yep.
how men and women would receive the information that I had. So it was really beautiful for me to actually just experience the difference of how my information was being taken.
It's so true. You and I have what I call the yin and the yang of the same topic. We're coming from the same place. All of my clients were initially men. I was going through that, and they were really more focused around attainment, purpose, being a stable force in their families' lives. These type of things, were that they were taking on a very masculine role, and they were coming to me saying much more of a mentor role and stuff like that. And this has been years and years and years. This is decades worth of work, right? And working with men. And then exactly the same thing with you. Exactly the same thing. I started doing a lot of deep work. I mean, deep work that, mass catharsis, tears, just what I'm talking. If you've done deep work, you know what I'm talking about. And then all of a sudden this door swung open for so much more feminine energy to come in. And not just that, people going through identity change. I mean, just a whole, you name the shift in male or female or gender lines and stuff like that, that whole door opened. And then all sorts of race doors opened, okay, as well. And so now the practice, like you were saying, the practice is just, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. And so when I think about your personal shift here, when you started really doing that, what do you think is inside you, or that practice part of you that was able to embrace that additional energy coming in that you were talking about? Was there like a personal shift in thinking that happened for you? How'd that work?
Yeah, I think that a lot of it was about really connecting with yourself, like you said, deep work.
Yep.
You've got to go like really deep and really figure out, what am I still holding on to? What have I not let go of? Where am I contracting? And I think a lot of the I guess the work for me was about how I had actually, there was some elements of me not feeling safe around men. So it was only natural that if those are my unconscious beliefs around certain things that had happened over the course of my, my life, that, well, then of course it wouldn't feel safe for me to be in that environment in a coaching capacity, or even as a friendship, right? Like not just necessarily coaching, right, but in all aspects.
There'd be a distance.
Yes. There would be a distance.
Yeah.
And the main thing for me as well, because I was looking to bring in love as well around that time. And so I had really noticed that no wonder I never attracted a partner before. I would need to physically do the work in order to attract that person in, because otherwise, again, there would always be this.
Okay, so let's pull that one apart right now. Okay. All right, on both sides, right? You cannot attract into your life while there is anger, hurt, wounds around that topic, around a person. So, how did you, if you don't mind, how did you pull that apart? What was the process like for pulling that apart?
Yeah. So I'm really excited to say that I'm actually in the final throes of writing my second book. And it really actually talks about this journey. So I call it, the first book was around the age of power. The second book is around the age of love. So I'm more than happy to share, because it's something that's just like very dear to my heart.
Yeah.
But essentially that, if people are interested and they want to know like, well, more, what was the details? Like, what did you actually go through? That will be available, and we'll explain it in, great depths. So for me, it was really around dedicating myself to the practice of love. Essentially, that was what I did. So I realized that I didn't have what I wanted in my life. And if I looked at, let's just say, a financial goal or a business goal, or prior to that, a career goal, how would I deal with it? Well, I would do all the logical steps. So I would write it down. I would actually work through, well, how would I need to get there? What possible things could I do? Who could I connect with? Right? And I would put it all down. I would lay it out. There would be a plan. I would know exactly what do I need to do on that plan to get me to that end goal. I don't think that we look at love in that way, but I think that we can look at love in that way.
So true.
So I pretty much just said, okay, I've turned 30 or I'm turning 30 and I'm going to dedicate the entire year to learning how to love. I'm not sure that I know how to do it. I know that there are elements of love that I am potentially good at, and there's areas of love that I might not be good at. But I am going to just dedicate my entire year to love. And I actually started off, I would say, a little bit egotistically, a little bit superficially, because the purpose was to find a partner, to attract in a spiritual partner. I said, if I dedicate a year, I will have this person by the end of the year. Mm. Within pretty much, I know, just a few weeks even, I suddenly realized, yeah, okay, we're not going to do that. That's not going to get us very far. Right. And so I threw that idea, in some respects, out of the window. And I really just said to myself, how do I really just become love? How do I live my life in that way, where everything that I do is love, everything that I see is love, every way that I interact? How do I offer that, even if it's just a tree or the car or the technology that's not working today? How do I still find it within myself to offer love and to work from that perspective and work from that place? And that was really what I did, along with just reading tons of books, really digging into different areas of love, looking at what other people had gone through, really just sort out my own journey. And it really all just naturally unfolded in front of me. But the main key ingredient was just this dedication. I said, okay, I'll be a student of love. Show me the way.
As with the foundation, that with that commitment comes the belief that you are worthy to receive love and that you are lovable, and that there is a partner out there who is willing and able and what I consider the right fit for that relationship. Is that where you're headed?
Yeah. And for me, that my year of love was actually identifying that I had a hard time believing, not from women. From women, I really, really believed in their capacity to love me.
Right.
But any kind of male interactions, I had a very tough time actually believing that men saw me as worthy. That men, that and it was interesting because I was looking at it from, I didn't think that they thought I was worthy, but actually it was my ideas, right? Like it was, I was making that up. They weren't looking at me and saying, she's not worthy, she's not good enough.
Yeah, no, men don't think that way. First off, we're pretty superficial at that level, right? We're very, visual. Okay. We don't put a whole lot of thought into that. I wish we did, right? We don't. We're very target oriented. We're coin operated. I told my wife, thanks for bringing that up. That's so funny. My wife, I said, you know how I am. She says, yeah, I know how I am. I said, I need you to just say you appreciate me, like once every 3 days, because I'll forget. Okay. And so what she did, God, I love her so much. She left these little notes all over the house and she stuck them in these little surprise places for me that says, I love you and I appreciate what you do. And I just found one like from 3 months ago in a drawer. Right. And she goes, oh, I forgot I put it there and stuff like that. So, I feel like sometimes a lot of guys are just like football players with stickers on the side of their helmet for every good play they did. Right. And just give me another sticker from the person who I'm in a relationship. That's our level. Okay. I just want to be clear with you. It's, you guys are playing chess and we're playing checkers, right? That's just how it is. Okay. So, that's really great that you've discovered that,
Sorry, I was going to say, it's interesting what you said, because it sounds to me one of the things that I discovered on my journey was around love languages. And actually, so what I'm hearing from you is that words of affirmation are your love language. You like to hear, right?
They are. That's so important. And I forget. Okay, I have a short memory in that. And what's held our relationship together for 30 years, we're going to celebrate 30 years marriage here in a little bit, is that I tell her what I need. Okay. I say, here's what I need to feel like I am part and respected of this relationship. And, she had to learn that she had to tell me what she needed for me to do the things that would make her feel like she was loved and needed and part of like that. She says, I just need you to, when the trash is full, to take it out. When you see it full, I need you to take it out. Okay, I can do that, right? And ever since that time till now, I've been able to do that. I say, oh, there's a full trash can, and she told me to take it out. It's very list oriented sometimes. I have to say, right? But okay, so we got a little off track there, but this is good. So tell me, so part of what this podcast is about coaching and coaching business as well. So when did you decide to be a coach? And so what were you doing before that? And what got you to go into what I call the healing leadership coaching modality?
Yeah. I think I have always been coaching. I just did not know that was what I was doing. So my career, my life before this was a little bit different. I was working in the corporate world, and I was doing things quite different to this. But what were you doing in the corporate world? What were you doing? I was working in banking.
Oh, okay.
And so
wow, that's pretty far from where you are right now.
Very far from where I am right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that had happened to me, I started out my career in the corporate world when I was 16, which nowadays would be a complete rarity. I don't even think it would be physically possible in the UK anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to now stay in school until you're 18. Most places are looking for a university degree. If you didn't have that, it would be really probably like a 1% chance that you'd be able to get into somewhere. So I was still back in the day where leaving school and going into like a corporate company and climbing the ladder was still acceptable. I think I was just on the last brink of people being able to do that. And so I started out my career really, really young and worked my way up essentially. And what sort of started to happen once I got into my early 20s is a lot of people were coming in from universities, from different studies, on apprenticeships, and people would basically say, oh, you know what, let's pair this person with Fab because she's been here for a long time, she knows the ropes, and she's probably about your age, so it works really well. Right. So I used to frequently get asked, oh, could you mentor this person, or they're new in, or could you mentor this person, or could you coach this person? And I would get asked that frequently. And then other people would kind of know about me from other areas, and they would see that I had climbed the ladder and was still young, and they would be like, well, I want to know how to do that. So there was a lot of people kind of just wanting to understand, like, what was my path? How did I get there? How did I create success in the roles that I was doing? And so my coaching days really started out with that, because I was essentially mentoring and then coaching. And sometimes what would happen, I would sit down with someone. I remember one person specifically, and we started to talk about what it was that he wanted in his life, and we were really working through it. And when he first came to chat with me, it was about getting a specific kind of job. But the more that we spoke, the more I actually realized he did not want this job. He wanted to move countries. He wanted to live in a different country. And so as soon as we identified this, he just suddenly like had this aha moment of just, what am I doing with my life? Why would I apply for a job when I clearly want to go here?
Yeah.
And I think it was less than, I don't know, it was probably like within 8 weeks. Within 3 months, he had left the country altogether, basically.
And he's pursuing his dream. He just knew what he wanted to do.
His dream. Yeah. He had just gone after it. And so for me, that was like a magical moment. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And from there on, I really started to appreciate those moments of people offering me, like, would you help this person? Would you help that person? Because it was some of the most favorite things that I got to do while I was there. I really, really enjoyed that level of work. And it wasn't for me that I even realized that this could be a full-time job or could be a thing until I started to I'd been in the company for just over a decade, and I really started to feel that I needed a bigger purpose, or that I was meant for something else, and that my time there had been great and wonderful. But the goals that I had set myself, which were pretty big goals, I just didn't feel like they just didn't fit with me as much anymore. There was something missing. I wasn't sure what it was.
You
I
had the
wanted to
kick.
be-
I call it the
Yeah,
kick. Well, Joseph Campbell writes about that, about the hero's journey, right? You had that kick. And once you've had the kick, there's no going back.
there is no going back.
No going
And
back.
I was really lucky to get myself a wonderful teacher. So when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? And
So true.
he came into my life, and actually it was hilarious because he just said to me, "Wait, what, you want to do what?" When I told him what my plan was,
Yeah.
and he went, "No, you don't want to do that." And I was like, "Why are you telling me what my dreams are for my own life?" I was really surprised by him
Yeah.
that he would be so blunt with me. But he was absolutely fundamentally right. And it was from that point on that I started to question myself. Well, was I just sticking to this thing that I had committed to doing when I was 16 because I'd committed to it when I was 16, but maybe I hadn't updated who I had become, what I wanted. And that was really then when I went on my journey. I guess, you call it the kick. I feel like I really was awoken to something else. A lot of change started to happen in my life. I started to really dramatically transform. And I decided to write my first book. And then that was really when, I suddenly realized, okay, I can officially coach people, and I can do this. And started to take various different things, meditation, learn to be a meditation teacher, learn to be a yoga teacher, learn to be this, learn to be that. And I went on a pathway of actually just trialing out a lot of different things. And for me, ultimately, coaching really stuck, and that was the thing that came just most naturally to me, and just opened up. And I've been doing it ever since. Basically,
that's fantastic. That's really fantastic, and thank you for the journey for there, because I know that recently there's been a pivot in my life with regards to the podcast and the business and stuff like that, where we fundamentally believe that self-worth is an addition to a coaching practice. That if someone was to take a domain that they're really good at, let's say that they are a technology leader coach, to say they work inside a business and they want to bring their leadership up a level, to bring that self-worth context into that world, such a game changer, and it's interesting because my coaching practice is a side hustle. Okay. It's not, I could do it full-time quite easily, but it's not where I am called, right, as to be a full-time coach. But I've been doing it for almost 30 years at the same time, but doing it inside the corporate world and that type of stuff while trying to change. And I think, Fabienne, I think this is really interesting of how each coach is called differently. I believe that the largest powers that can influence the world today are corporations. Okay, not governments, but corporations, right? And their power of their money. And if you can influence the leaders of companies, specifically the leaders of technology companies, we can change the world. Okay, that's my belief, right? And so if we can elevate the worthiness, the self-worth of the technology leaders, then you talk about shifting the world from a technologies for maybe like for more selfish purposes to technologies for more human purposes. And that's a global shift, at least in my book, right?
Yeah. And I run a lot of workshops to corporations and to companies, and I do various things on self-worth and how to rebalance your life, for example.
Right.
Lots of different things. And I agree to a certain extent that the companies that people work for, they do have the power to shift potentially, right? If they have their employees, you can always tell when there's a company that's really, really good and really offers those extra things. But people inside those companies, they work harder, they're happier,
So
they have
true.
a better quality of life. And so that's really where you want to be. It makes me think when you say that I don't necessarily just think a corporation has to be this really big grand thing, but I almost see that there's a friend of mine has a company, and she has a company in the UK. And so it was a candle making company. She first started out making candles for herself around mental health and things like that. And she's now building out this huge team of people and employing all of these people. And as you say, right, like things like worthiness, things like self-care, things like really looking at themselves, doing the work, having great offerings. And so to me, they're still small at the moment,
Yeah,
but she has the power to become in the future one of
absolutely.
the companies that have
Absolutely.
the right foundations in place to ensure that the team that she has working for her are happy and healthy and feel their best and enjoy coming to work and want to carry on doing that. And that's just great for business. It's great for humans. It's great for the owners. It's great. And
It's
it's great for the people that purchase from them as well, because they feel that energy.
it's so true. It is so true. So I thank you for that input on that particular, because this is very near and dear to my heart because there's so much angst that sometimes goes into the criticism of corporations. So there a lot of people want to throw rocks from the outside in, and I'd much rather go into the fight, if you would, and work from the inside and change it from the inside as opposed to leave. So that's been a passion of mine for a lot of years and stuff. So, hey, I for the last, as we exit out of this podcast here, how do people get a hold of you? What are these last comments you want to have? How do they get a hold of you? What are the things that you got coming up here that you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, sure. So the best way to probably get hold of me is to find me on Instagram, right? Most people nowadays are over there, and you can see all my little stories and, my snippets of Ibiza and what I'm working on and what I'm doing. So you can find me on Instagram with my name. My handle is Fabienne Sandoval. So write my name and I should come up. I think as well, if you put SelfWorth Coach, I come up as well.
Yeah, SelfWorth Coach. Yeah, we'll have that in the notes on the podcast too.
Yeah. You can find me on my website as well. And there's also a SelfWorth masterclass I'm going to be running in the month of June. So if anybody is curious and wants to learn more, it's going to be a 90-minute session. And I definitely recommend that people come check out the website and sign up for that, or, check out the recording afterwards.
Well, fantastic, Fabienne. Thank you so much for joining us. I wish you the best on your Crystal Island. And so thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Robert. Pleasure being here.